the possibility of rejoining the European Union, well, it seems to be, coming closer. It's almost in our reach. Opinions on Brexit is shifting. But unfortunately for us, with the politicians that we have to endure, they're just so tribal. Doesn't matter if it's the Conservatives or even the Labour Party, no. But even redwall voters, they're starting to change their minds. Anyway, before I continue, be most kind and boot the old like button. And if you want to support the channel, you can do it on Patreon or buy us a coffee. You might even be able to get a dog treat, 1 or 2, or even 3. Yeah, Bear. There you go, boy. Well, I was reading an article, this morning, in the Financial Times. And it said that at the height of Britain's Brexit debate, passions are, they're running high. Yeah, and there's talk of a new civil war. In fact, I still think there's a possibility the Tories carry on this destructive path. Well, it's rather intriguing, wouldn't you say? And for one specific reason. The side that won the Civil War, they ultimately lost. King Charles I was executed in 1649. 11 years later, the English decided they had made a mistake and restored the monarchy. So that's a shame. But anyway, now, could we see a similar reversal regarding Brexit? Maybe. Now, 7 years after the 2016 referendum, I remember it well, and 3 years after Brexit actually happened, opinions, they're shifted markedly, quite frankly, and as one academic, Matthew Goodwin, wrote recently, he said some 60% of Britons now think that Brexit was the wrong decision, you don't say, and would vote to rejoin if we had a second EU referendum. An average of recent polls shows that 58% of voters not only regretting Brexit, but they're actively favouring Remain. I know, these Tory Brexiters, Brexit headbangers, you could say, they don't want us to repeat that line, do they? But it's true. Now, it's easy to understand why. Now, Brexit was sold as a way of controlling immigration and improving the NHS. 360 million a week to the NHS or something like that on a big red bus. Ask Alexander Boris to Ethel Johnson, although he might conveniently forget. But the NHS is now in far worse shape than it was in 2016. Immigration into the United Kingdom remains very high. And EU immigrants largely replaced by people from outside of the bloc. Unfortunately, for the Brexiters, they've got brown faces. Well, and then you got the IMF. It predicts that Britain will have the worst performing economy in the developed world this year. Worse than Russia. They're sanctioned. Interest rates are now at 4%. Okay, they're still not as high as they have been. But most people are taking out mortgages, especially young people, trying to get their foot on the ladder with house prices so high. Any increases in, interest rates are catastrophic. And 2.2 million people are now finding that they can't afford revised mortgage offers because their fixed rate terms are coming to an end. Where does it leave them? From 0.25% to 4%. Base rate. Demographics and economics suggest that the rejoin sentiment will strengthen over time. Young voters are the most pro-EU of the lot. A lot of those who voted for Brexit, they're no longer with us, including my father, who was a Brexiter. Yes, there's interesting conversations there that there was. That's when you really get to know a man for who he really is. 79% of the 18 to 24-year-olds, they want to rejoin. And sadly, the damage done to the UK economy by Brexit is likely to become increasingly evident, unavoidable, and the usual blame game, quite frankly, no matter what the Tories do, You know, the Brexiters in general, in fact, not just the Tories. That's never going to cut the mustard, no. Well, so far these changes have not filtered through into politics. No. Daniel Hannan, for instance, a prominent Leave campaigner, claimed recently that there was a plot to overturn Brexit. If only, quite frankly. Kate Hoey was saying the same. I can't believe that she was in Labour there again. Not in Labour, maybe she was one time, I don't know, she's got kids. But anyway. And then you got Lee Anderson. He was also in Labour. And now he's a turncoat. He's now a hardline Brexiter Tory. Deputy chairman for the party, that he is, Lee Anderson. A liar and a cheat. Well, in reality, we're roughly 2 years before an election. The opposition Labour Party says that reversing Brexit is out of the question. And talks only of fixes to the current deal. Really? Well, even die-hard Remainers often moan that it will take a generation before Britain can consider rejoining the European Union. Now, I've said the same. Can't see it at the moment. No, not how the cards lie at the moment. But things are changing, and they're changing fast. Now, I agree, though, it is painfully fatalistic and quite frankly too accepting of the mounting damage that Brexit is doing. It also ignores the speed in which events and opinions are moving, because they are rapidly moving. There is hope, there really is. Our exclusion from programmes such as, Horizon Europe, and the painful ATA carnets, which is blocking our young artists and sports professionals, poets even, from touring the European Union. Well, it further enrages the young voters. Now, you have to get the young voters on side if you've got any long term in government. It's obvious, isn't it? There's so many reasons to rejoin, but reasons for leaving are becoming, scant. But saying that, those of us who put that cross in the right box, quite frankly, we always knew that, didn't we? The truth is that the marginal fixes to the Brexit, favoured by Labour, is, wishful thinking. And it will take years to achieve at a considerable cost. Meanwhile, the country falls further into debt. The Exchequer and the people. Unfortunately. The changes may not be achievable and would not compensate for exclusion from the EU's internal market or other programmes. Like I say, like Horizon Europe, science programme, bank passporting, can't even get memorandums of understanding. So no financial services can be performed in the EU unless you relocate with staff, more jobs, more brain drain, you could say. The public seem, they've realised this now. And eventually, politicians, they're going to have to respond. They will have to follow suit. They're going to have to, swallow their pride. And the idea of rejoining the EU will become mainstream. I actually do solely believe this. Not necessarily today or tomorrow, but sometime in the future. I can really see it, I can. A large Labour majority at the next general election, that's what the polls are telling us, would make the shift easier. But also, they've already said that they're going to reverse a lot of these new bills that are passing in Parliament. But, the one thing that really winds me up is the Labour rhetoric. Make Brexit work. Well, that just has to stop, because it's just another lie. You have to accept the problem if you're going to find a solution. And we know what the problem is. The problem is Brexit in the first place, leaving the European Union. Well, any campaign to rejoin would face two big further objections. The first and foremost, and, most important, is the claim that the EU would want to oppose Britain rejoining the European Union. Do they want us back? It's debatable, isn't it? And the second is the argument that the British will turn against Rejoin when they realise what it actually involves, although I have my doubts. European opposition to a British return. Well, it certainly exists for obvious reasons. The rhetoric coming out of the United Kingdom has been so right-wing as we don't really fit. That cog doesn't mesh anymore. But Michel Barnier, who led the EU's Brexit negotiating team, he says that the door is open for Britain to rejoin the EU. Any time, he says. That's debatable. There's a process, and we're already out. It's not a returning, really, is it? We're just joining. It's not really rejoining. It's just joining. And we'd have to abide by the rules set by the EU if that was the case. Guy Verhofstadt, who was head of the European Parliament's Brexit Committee, he tweeted last week, he tweeted a few things, and also he was interviewed by Nick Ferrari of LBC Radio. He says, I have a dream, he says. He has a dream that Ukraine and Britain will be joining the EU. But Ukraine will join first. That's what he said, amongst other things. He's obviously, he's pro, rejoining of the European Union. Yeah, Britain rejoining, that is. And you got Philip Lamberts. He's co-chair of the Green Group in the European Parliament. And he was asked about Britain rejoining. And he replied, that would be my dream scenario. Lamberts thinks that the 5 main political groups in Parliament would all favour a British re-entry. As long as we don't burn up, that is. Well, some EU member states, in particular France, where I am here today. Yeah. The French argue that the British were a pain in the derriere when we were inside the EU. And we were. We kept vetoing stuff, blocking stuff from happening. Well, I say that the bloc has worked better since Brexit. I happen to agree. But French opposition to British membership, that was worn down back in 1970, Charles de Gaulle, what have you, when he opposed Britain joining. Well, this could deepen our pain, just by delaying the possibility of rejoining. It just means it'll take longer. But here's the thing. Britain would not be offered any special deals. There'll be no budget rebate, no. No opt-out from the social charter, no. Britain would have to accept free movement of people. And quite probably, the euro. Well, some pundits think that once these realities sink in, the British would lose their initial enthusiasm for rejoining the European Union. But that is not necessarily the case at all, since desperation will encourage and amplify the blame game. Just this time we'll be blaming, Brexit. Unless you have a screw loose, of course. Well, the idea that leaving the European Union will dramatically reduce immigration has been disproved. Nigel Farage's despicable and, quite frankly, photoshopped Breaking Point poster. Well, it is reasonably mocked these days for the lie that it is. Embracing European social standards may horrify the Tory right wing, but would probably be popular amongst those, the electorate. Most of the electorate, that is. Even the euro might be a deal breaker, since the euro is now an established, they might not be a deal breaker, since it's now an established international currency, while the pound looks chronically weak. We don't have the buying power as we did, no. The young Brits have a different ideology these days. And these voters, they favour rejoining. They care more about that as an issue, such as Well, that and also the environment and global warming, obviously. I don't really give a damn. They're not that interested in the notions of sovereignty. Besides, we didn't really lose it, no. If anything, we had more sovereignty than we do since Brexit. Signing up to deals that, quite frankly, rip our sovereignty away. Well, how could this all be done? Yes, it would involve another referendum. Yeah, a second referendum. That would be rather nice though, wouldn't it? First, maybe a vote. A vote in 2024. To get rid of these Tories in the Tory party. This right-wing Tory party. Get shot of them. A lot of them they're fleeing the Tory party already because they know they're not going to get elected. They don't want the humiliation. Well, then a referendum. That would simply give the UK government permission to open negotiations with the European Union. A strong vote of approval, say 60%, may allay some EU sceptics. Thank you, Wally. Wally. That's my dog. He's just banged the camera. Hey, Wally. Wally. Oh, he wants a drink. So 60%, they might allay some EU scepticism about whether Britain is too divided, and that EU would shy away from the prospect of the UK rejoining, especially France, of course. A second referendum would be held on the terms of a rejoin deal. But before any of this could even happen, any bills that go against human rights, and obviously the European Court of Human Rights, they'll also have to be reversed. Now, it took 11 years for Britain to restore the monarchy. Why not just try to beat that and reverse a Brexit inside a decade? Oh, that would be good. Oh, a bit like I'll still be here. I could enjoy it. Oh, dear. Oh, luckily I got my cat's jaw. I don't have my 90 and 180 days to worry about. How about you? Leave it in the comments down below. Anyway, there's a secret word at the end of this video, and it's going to be U-turn. Because the Tories and Labour will have to do a U-turn if they want to get any kind of public vote. So the word of today is just another U-turn. Oh, and my dogs are snoring. If you wonder what that noise in the background is my Pandora down there. She's snoring. Look at her. Oh, and she's lovely. And then I got my Wally down there. He had a gurgle and a gargle. Some water. You can see him down there. I don't know if they're that interested in treats at the moment. They seem all very sleepy. Wally, do you want a treat? What's that? Oh, there you go, boy. What about Pandora? Does she want a treat? Pandora. Oh, she got. Oh. Well, anyway, you might know this already, but we're planting trees here in France. We're planting 1,000 trees on 2 hectares of land. And if you want to be a part of that, there is a GoFundMe link down below in the description. And what we'll do is we'll plant trees on your behalf, but also we'll put your name with the trees, or maybe in memory of a loved one. Anyway, the link is down below, so if you want to do that, that's quite a nice idea, I think. Anyway, it's time for me to go. I was going to say ta-ta, But please, boop the old like button and press subscribe and maybe that little bell icon, because then you'll get a notification every time I upload another video. I think this one's on a bit of the long side, but hey, ta-ta.